But in our first off the ball segment, we got some sad news, Kyle. Derek Carr, after the rumor swirling that he may not be able to play this year, well, he's not going to play again. Derek Carr retired over the weekend. Obviously, the shoulder injury that was discussed, he ended up saying the injury he sustained December 8th when he tried to start throwing again, tried to start ramping up. He couldn't do it. And after consultation with his wife, he said he's going to retire from the New Orleans Saints. What are your first reactions to this?
My first reactions are this. It's such a beautiful game that we all love so much. But for those of us who play it at the highest level, you come to an understanding at a certain point in your career that you're not invincible. In high school, you felt like you were invincible. At Fresno State, I would imagine he felt invincible. When he got into the NFL and he was slinging those downtown Julie Brown sky shots for touchdowns, one of which I was a part of in the Pro Bowl, you think you're invincible. And then as your career goes on and your body accumulates all these injuries, you can't do it forever. And I think the important part that you pointed out was the deliberations, the discussions he was having with his family, the inner sanctum, so to speak. And they came to the decision that maybe rehabbing all the time during the off season, not being able to take trips with our family, not being able to spend time at home because I'm in the training room, the pressure that surrounds being an NFL player, and obviously being a quarterback and a leader. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown. And when you're a quarterback, you're one of these monarchical figures in your building. And if your body's not right, you can't do it. If you can't do it, you can't be the right leader. If you're not the right leader, your team's going to have no success. So good on him for understanding that there was an out here and getting out of Dodge with his body still intact is a good thing. Derek Carr is an underappreciated quarterback when you go back and look at it historically. He was prolific for a long time in the league. And I remember my first time I saw Derek Carr in person, we were at the Pro Bowl. I think it was 2014 or 2013. It was in Hawaii still, so I think it was 14. He threw a ball over the middle of the field that probably went 60 air yards, dropped into a bucket. I think maybe Tyler Eifert caught it. One of these guys caught it. And I just remember being like, holy shit, that is a Pro Bowl throw. Like that's what you sign up for. So for Derek Carr, tip of the cap to you, man. Tough dude, great teammate by all accounts. And now the door is open, as they say in golf, for a quarterback to step into Kellen Moore's system and start to build something special in New Orleans.
Yeah, I'll say this from his perspective. He was not he's actually walking away from a ton of money. We usually think these guys only had a $1.25 million base salary this year. So like he was kind of eating that. The signing bonus was that deal for him. So it's not like he's, doing this and saving the Saints a bunch of cap space in doing so. But Derek Carr's career was interesting because I thought that injury, you go back to, was at the end of the 2016 season when he broke his ankle. I thought it changed the complete trajectory of his career. I think he was on the pace. You go from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 that this guy was. And after breaking his ankle, you just saw a skittishness to him under pressure that was never really quite the same for him throughout his Vegas career, throughout his New Orleans career, and now into retirement. But the guy was a day 2 quarterback. And there's a stigma around day 2 quarterbacks that basically if you fall to the second round, he was picked 36 in 2014, fall to the second round, that you are not looked at as a guy who can make it, basically. Like it's either, you're either first rounder or you're a backup in the NFL's eyes. And he's one of the few, Jalen Hurts being another, go back to Andy Dalton, that like actually made it as a day 2 quarterback.
Forget Andy Dalton was day 2. Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's from the New Orleans Saints. It makes their decision-making this offseason all the more interesting. Obviously, I think they got wind of this by the draft that he wasn't going to be there. That's why they draft Tyler Shuck in the second round. But they went out and signed a bunch of free agents. We criticized their offseason trajectory on last week's show and what they did in free agency and what they did from a cap perspective, trying to run it back. They look poised. If you're starting a rookie quarterback or in Tyler Shuck, or you're starting a guy who's even younger in Spencer Rattler, was a 5th rounder year prior, it's not going to be the chances of it being good are just very, very slim. So they still may fall into a top 5 pick, still may fall into a franchise quarterback next year, but they could have pretty much written their ticket for whoever was the best quarterback next year if they wanted to this offseason. And I think they're going to regret not doing so.
I think that when we were discussing what the New Orleans Saints were primed to do in the first round of the NFL draft, we discussed you can bring in somebody who's a project at the quarterback position, which is why I thought maybe, if Shedeur Sanders was going to go, it would be a place like New Orleans. New head coach, offensive-minded coach, somebody who's building a program who's in cap hell, trying to shed its skin, a little molting going on. And molting, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's when, scorpions, spiders, snakes, they shed their skin and they become something new and the same. That's what the New Orleans Saints were going to do. Without Derek Carr, it makes the path very clear for a young quarterback to step in and be groomed in this system. Obviously, you can still go after the top guy next year, but you want to establish a culture. And I think it's a great opportunity for Kellen Moore to do that. The expectations aren't float parade on Bourbon Street, okay? The expectations for this team are we want to see a program that has its ducks in a row and can figure out how to get better throughout this season. I think that's what they're going to do.
Do we think this opens up the door for another potential team for Aaron Rodgers? Because everyone has him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is there any chance he goes to the Saints? I don't think so, just because he's going to want more money than what the Saints can give him.
I think that Kellen Moore is going into New Orleans with a clear blueprint and thought of how he wants to run things. If Aaron Rodgers shows up, he's going to control, alt, delete everything. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to set yourself back 3, 4, 5, 6 months of offseason preparation. Would I think it would be cool if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback for the Saints? Of course. I'd love to cover that. But for Kellen Moore's sake and for the Saints' faithful sake and the next 10 years of their program, I want to see them start fresh.
All right. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers and the Saints, that Thursday night opener way back 2011, one of the best games, one of the best openers of all time. We got the opener announced for this upcoming season. And a bit of a surprise. The Eagles are hosting the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. The NFL is really going for a bang here because every year they save that Thursday night opener. They basically try to save the real rivalry games. I can't remember the last time we had a division rival or like another big name divisional foe on the schedule week 1, but they're going out with probably the biggest name you could have in that Thursday night slot, really trying to hit a home run here.
Well, you said divisional foe is one that you haven't seen happen. I can remember some real great conference rivalries. Last year, Ravens, Chiefs. I don't know if it was Thursday, but it was week 1. You know what I mean?
That was a Thursday.
It's the big ticket item, man. Like it's Tyson Holyfield. Like that's what people want to see. And for the Cowboys, new coach, new receiver, same quarterback, same number 1 receiver. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the Eagles, obviously, Super Bowl champs. So a lot of eyes on that thing in Philly.
I'm going to galaxy brain this. And so they don't usually do this, right? But the thought here to me is that they think the Cowboys are going to stink this year, or thought. Obviously, before the George Pickens trade, I think that's going to move some things. But the thinking to me is that if this game happened week 8, the Cowboys could be 2-6, right? The Cowboys could be bad.
Get what you can out of the name while they're 0-0.
Exactly. So right now, with hope abound, everyone's going to tune in, and Cowboys fans are going to be thumping their chests, thinking this is their year. But I think this is the NFL saying, hey, Dallas, we actually don't think you're going to be that good this year. Because
so the
that
court
week 8
of public
matchup,
opinion is Friday morning, week 1, where we can just enjoy it on Thursday and be like, oh, my God, look at Pickens in a Cowboys jersey. Look, Dak's healthy. Look, CeeDee Lamb can catch. And they suck. That's, they're banking on everybody in America talking about, number 1, the reload, the retool of the Philadelphia Eagles. And number 2, the Cowboys are still the Cowboys.
Exactly.